Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Friday morning with the survival of the fittest. It's Crunchfish time. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's a lovely day out in Sweden, 11 degrees centigrade here in Lund, where I'm sitting. Oh. So it's plenty of springtime feelings around us here. I hope you all have a good morning. It will be a lovely session today about patents. And I think this is quite special because I believe Crunchfish, they are working well, very sharp in this sector. And we will get all the information, all the knowledge about this. So please jump along and bring your questions through the chat forum so I can pass them on. We have a lovely group of people this morning joining in. And I believe if you've been here before, you definitely know Joachim. He's always here. He lives here, I'd assume. And good morning to you, Joachim Samuelsson, Group CEO of Crunchfish.
Good morning to you, Johan. I think you live here as well.
Yes, this is where we meet.
Yes.
I don't know if you're real in the real world. You could be my avatar.
I am your avatar.
Well, great. So have you had a good morning so far?
Absolutely. Lovely weather also in Malmö, I can tell you.
Oh, very far away, 10 minutes from here. Well, great. So good. And it's and then we have two panelists. You've met one of them at least before. Paul Kronholm, CTO and founder, Crunchfish. Good morning.
Good morning to you all. It's a wonderful day.
What was that?
That was a secret cup. This is a half cup full, but it will be.
Oh, the invisible cup. The invisible. Yes. Yes, I have one too.
Yeah. It's a good filter.
Good filter. So, good morning to you. And then we have Björn Andersson, European Patent Attorney, Ström and Gulliksson. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
You have your Clark Gable look, I believe.
I always do, trying hard.
Yeah, well, I think you manage quite well, actually. So you're at top in the panel, I would say.
Oh,
yeah, that's not hard. So, is it a good morning for you two, Paul and Björn?
It's a great morning. It's a lovely morning. It's sunny days, and everything is good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great. And well, some would say being an attorney, dealing with laws and blah blah blah, boring. Is it? How funny is it?
Yeah, but you know the benefits of being a patent attorney in particular is that you get to know about all these really interesting and challenging high-tech new stuff. Yeah. And I mean, working with Crunchfish is a true blessing, to be honest, because you come across so cool stuff.
Yeah, great.
These guys. Yeah.
And I think that part, especially nowadays with all the global perspectives, and you need to be sharp on this sector. So, do you think if you compare today with 10 years ago, the working with patents, is it the same process or is it totally different?
Well, it's completely different if I compare to 20 years ago. That's for sure. But something happened around the millennium shift, if you'd like.
Okay. What kind of change?
Because for instance, in Sweden, before that, Swedish companies applied for very few patents. They didn't really care about it. But then something happened. I think Ericsson was the leader and decided that, hey, if we're gonna survive on the global market, we need patents as well. We can't just leave it to the other guys in other countries and parts of the world. Yeah. So something happened there, and then from there it has just sort of boiled down to startups and SMEs and all that. So now it's a completely different story.
And this behavior, is it all around the world?
It is, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So, we will get to all the facts about this. And first of all, did you celebrate the big Star Wars day? Yeah, 2 days from now.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you. It's a good joke at least. So.
We always do. I also, Biffala Lindström was also created on that day. So if you got tired now, Johan, on celebrating May the 4th be with you on Star Wars, you can celebrate that this is the foundation day for Biff à la Lindström.
Yeah, who's got the patent for Biff à la Lindström nowadays?
I think it's Lindström.
Okay, still Lindström. Well, it's a sharp patent. Okay, so let's have, we always do like this. We have a starting session, a presentation, and today it will be Joachim. And then after that, we will have some discussions. I have plenty of questions. And then, of course, I'd like to invite you all who participate, joining in wherever you are, your questions. So please post them in the chat forum or at LinkedIn if you're watching from there. So let's start this. I'm very curious about this session. So Joachim, are you prepared?
I think so, Johan. I think I'm prepared to talk about patents.
Ready, steady, go.
Thank you, Johan. No, this is quite exciting. Patents been with Crunchfish all along, actually. I know my first interaction with Paul was that I'm happy to invest in Crunchfish if we could actually apply for some patents. And I've been working with Björn before in my previous company, and I actually called Björn and said that you really have to look into whether they have patentable IP. And they did. And on the first day, it was sort of when I came in as an investor, there were 3 filings did. This was back in 2012, and that's where it all started. Patent family number 1, 2, 3. Now we're up to 66. So it's been a long journey. Not all have turned into patents. Some we have abandoned. You do that sometimes if you discover that there are prior art. But it's been really a journey. So we're up to patent family 66, which is quite a lot for a small company only having 25 people. So it's been a very interesting journey. So if we look at what we have come up with, I said 66, which is the number of families, and some has been abandoned. But in the Crunchfish group right now, we have 42 unique innovations. And of those, 31 have been granted in one or many countries. So we count sort of unique innovations here. So 42 unique innovations. The answer to life, everything, and the universe, 42. I think we have that here as Crunchfish as well. 31 being granted, and it's in 2 areas. We all started back in 2012. These 3 first one was certainly in the area of gesture interaction, and that we have 12 innovations in that area. I won't talk much more about that today. All of them are now granted. And the other area that we sort of started to take out patents in is digital cash area. And that started back in 2014, I think. We had some of the first ones. And we're now up to 30 innovations in this area. And we have 19 grants in this area. And that's what I will cover a little bit more in detail. This shows a little bit of a breakdown of the digital cash patents. Initially, we were all into Bluetooth proximity. And we are thinking about how you could easily share information between mobile devices and how you could discover people in your proximity when you're walking around with a mobile. We really thought that having a feeling that when the next step for internet would really be to make it mobile as well, so you have a contextual view of what you are seeing around you. And we had some really, I still think we have some really cool innovation in this area. And that is the area of social applications, sharing information and discovering things around you. But that is not at all the core of what sort of digital cash is all about. But it is in that company, these 10 patents out of 11 innovations. We were still on Bluetooth and proximity, and we had terminal interaction. People have heard of Blipit, and we had, even before then, it was beacon-based, pure beacon-based terminal interaction. And we have 8 innovation in that area, and 6 has been granted. And then in 2020, we moved into digital cash, and it's now become sort of there are 11 innovations in the digital cash area, and 3 are already approved or granted in this area. And it is these two, the terminal interaction, digital cash, I'll actually give you some more flavor on. But before I describe sort of the patent portfolio, I think it is good to give a bit of a perspective on what digital cash is, because otherwise I think it's hard to relate to the patent portfolio. So I'll give a little bit of a background of digital cash. Digital payments today is very much an online activity. The whole security is online, and that means that it's dependent on that you can get access, so you can get online. It could be either the payer or the payee or both needs to be sort of having sort of network access, and it's also dependent on core banking, that there is sort of a back end here which is responsive as well. So online payments services, it's a great system, and that's how payment system works today. But it is vulnerable because it is dependent on core banking and network access. And we, as I said, we sort of started quite late, 2020, with an idea of digital cash, and it's quite simple. It is based on those 3 steps, that you reserve something. The money is still sitting in the core banking, in your bank account, but you reserve money, and you can reserve at different levels, as I'll describe, but there is a reservation. Then the big magical step for us is the pay step, is how we could, using that reservation, make a payment. And the payment is something where the payer and the payee, the receiver of the payment, they are in agreement that, you know, there has been a transfer of value. So maybe if the payee, the receiver of the payment, is a merchant, they can let go of you, that they are willing to let you go with goods from their shop, for instance. They understand that they have got paid. And then as a third separate step, it's the settlement step. And this is where money is moved between accounts. But this process, reserve, pay, and settle, 1, 2, 3, as simple as that. That's what digital cash is all about, 1, 2, 3. And what's actually quite amazing is that we came in late to the game, 2020. You know, digital payments has been around for 20 years. But this idea of making it this way and how we've gone about it has still allowed us to create a position for ourselves with patent rights, which is quite amazing, actually, in an area which is as hot and interesting as digital payments. Looking at this system of payment, we have these 3 steps. You reserve something from a bank account, and you reserve it, and you can reserve it either to an account structure online. This is what we call digital cash online, but you can also reserve it even one level down to actually have a balanced representation on your own phone in a secure way. This is what we call digital cash offline. So from the payer perspective, you can make that reservation. You can have it online, or you can have it even offline. And we have actually worked recently of also taking it to a 3rd level, where you have it even on a smart chip as well, which could be, for instance, on a card. But there is digital cash online and there is digital cash offline. But these 2 abilities for the payer means that you could pay without access to the core banking system. So the core banking, sort of your bank could be down, and you can still make a payment. Or if you don't have connectivity, you can still make a payment. You can pay without network connectivity. So the vulnerability of online payment we are addressing with our system here. You can pay without network connectivity, you can pay without core banking system. And that's important. If we're looking at from the payee perspective, the payee is the one who receives payments, then you can look at it, we sort of give a couple of things. One thing is what I call here P2P at the bottom there, that we could facilitate that you could receive money, but you can also have an ability to pay it forward. So without actually going online, you are receiving something from someone else, and you can pay it forward. Then you need to be a peer on the payee side. So you also need to have a secure environment locally. So that's what I have here, the digital cash offline. You need to have that, and a private key, so you could pay forward, P2P. But you can also be, which is quite common, that you can be like a merchant. Doesn't have to be a merchant, but merchant is very typical here. And then you could receive, for instance, without any network connectivity. So you could be offline paying, but also the payee could be offline and understanding that, yes, I've received some value. What you need then, at the minimum, is a verifier. So you need to be able to verify the incoming payments. We call it the digital cash verifier. But that one could also be at other places. It could be sitting the same sort of function that this payee has downloaded if they're going to receive it offline. This verifier could exist in various places online as well. It could sit at the payment switch, or it could sit at the central bank, or it could sit maybe at the issuing bank. They could also have a verifier. And then we are getting to something which is quite, I think, very unique for us, that we can have, this is a new term really, P2X. You could sort of pay to someone who is sort of anonymous really, because you just send what we call a digital cash message. You send over a message, and that person could verify that message that this is a correct payment by going online. But that means that the payee do not have to prepare anything. They don't have to have anything in order to get part of the action of receiving digital cash. You don't have to onboard them first. They could sort of onboard themselves after they have received that sort of a first payment. And they can still go online then, given that they have online connectivity, and make trust or verify for themselves that this is a legit payment. And I'll come back a little bit to that, because these three, the P2P, P2M, P2X here, these relates to how we have gone about and started to create a very strong patent portfolio in this area. I think what is also interesting with Crunchfish is sort of how we've gone about it, and just from an architectural point of view. To the left there is, I would say this describes quite well how the world looks today. There is the core banking system, and to that they are typically serving one or many payment services that you could have linked to your current account, which is being debited when you use some of those payment services. Quite common as well is that you could have other companies who can create an e-wallet service. This PayPal is a good example, but there are many others that you are then to another entity actually withdrawing money, putting money into an e-wallet service, and that e-wallet service could come maybe with could have prepaid cards, but this is sort of the system how it looks today in the market. What we've come in and done is to first of all isolate away, as I said, the core banking system, and that's what we have with one layer. We call it digital cash online. This is that mirrored account structure which allows you to pay even if the core banking system is down. That's that reservation that makes that possible, because we have already reserved some money from the core banking system, and you can use that. The bank would debit that when you make that payment, and then you can reserve to various lower levels. You can have it on your phone, that's digital cash offline, or you can go all the way down to non-mobile devices like cards and wearables. That sort of whole stack, digital cash online, offline, and non-mobile devices, is what we created, and we could augment any bank with this sort of service for any payment service. And I think that way we go to market is quite interesting. So we could become another PayPal, a new sort of payment service, but we would then compete with PayPal and many other payment services. But we've chosen rather to augment any existing payment service in the world with providing this this functionality of digital cash, because we provide a lot of benefits. I think webinar number 3, we talked about digital cash benefits to understand a little bit what does this bring. But it brings a lot, because as I said, payment services of today, say real-time payment services, they are great when they work, but they're also very vulnerable. And we create with our structure here a way to take away a lot of vulnerability. Banks can be down, this still works. You could not have network connectivity, it still works. Things like that are important for payment services. And we bring all these improved features. This is just, same, just showing in a way what is happening here. To the left, you see that stack again from the core banking system of how we reserve money down. At the top is sort of where all your transactions today is switched against. It's the transactional account that you have at the bank. But we reserve, the first reservation is from that core banking system down to this mirrored account structure. This is where we have digital cash online. But we can reserve further, one level down, and then we come down to the smartphone. And we have a secure environment on the smartphone where we can have digital cash offline. And then you can make exchanges as well with the smart chip. And then we are all the way down to cards, variables, or even feature phones, as they could also be bearer instruments. This is our reservation sort of structure. Then if we move over to the other 2 steps, we remember it was reserve, pay, and settle. Here is just an example of what does it look like for pay and settle. Well, if we take step 3, the settlement step, that happens as it always have, using the same payment rail. We're really not changing much in the settlements. And this is where we then are settling against sort of the core banking system. But the beauty is that it doesn't have to happen at the very moment when you make your purchase or someone is paying. The bank could actually have a little bit of flexibility here of moving the money later. And that creates a lot of great redundancy for the bank and a much better uptime as well, creating this sort of structure. But then we can make then payments without the core banking system. This is what we call online payment. Then we can, if you do that digital cash online payment, then we can pay without the CBS, because we just use rather that balance sitting at the digital cash online. And then we can also pay completely then without any network connectivity as well. And we can do that between 2 smartphones, or it could even then be from a card to a smartphone. But this is our offline payments. This has been a journey for us. Paul and I, as I said, we've been camping together since 2012. And these first patents we did was all in the area of gesture. But this was an idea of Paul, started back in 2014, actually. And it took us some years, and then we came out with our sort of first products. And the first generation was this a bubble, where you have a bubble around you, and you could sort of understand more about your surroundings. And we created ideas of how to share and experience things in your surroundings through your mobile phone. And that was our social application that we started with. And we have, as I said before, a few patents around that. It was all Bluetooth based, and it's all about proximity interaction. And this took us sort of in 2017, we started realizing we probably have to go into payments for this technology. Out came a product, the second generation was Blipit, Bluetooth low energy proximity interaction via an app terminal. That was the second generation, and really the first when we started to move into the area of payments. ProxyLink does the same trick as Blipit, but it doesn't have a terminal at all. So if you are interacting between 2 mobile devices where both have mobile operating systems, we don't need Blipit, because Blipit essentially is an adapter that connects a mobile to a PC. proxy link is all that is needed, all in software, to have proximity interaction between two mobiles. And this is actually coming in very handy now when we are looking at paying forward for digital cash. So then we are using very much that technology that we came with in 2019-20. Early 2020, we sort of started with ideas around digital cash, and we were really excited about it. We came with this digital cash offline, which is where you can actually have a balance and you can make payments offline from a mobile phone. And that came out, it was summer of 2021. It was a launch product where we were, very excited about that. But it didn't scale as quickly as we thought. And we went back a bit to the drawing board. And in December, we launched also digital cash online as well. And it was on what we call now a digital cash platform, and gives us an even wider range of function. This is where we have digital cash online, offline, online and offline, and also on non-mobile devices. And that's where we are today. So this has been our sort of journey that we have developed. And the patent portfolio has sort of followed that. It's sort of a couple of years before, we actually always start with patenting, and then the products comes a little bit later. Here you can see the early days of 2014 when we started with our social applications. And as I said, most of those have actually been granted. The only one is the last one. We thought that our social application could actually be used for during the pandemic here for contact tracing. We came up with a cool way of actually protecting your personal data, that you have it centrally, but we protect it. So you have to release it, or can give some escrow rights to someone to release it in case of something happens to you, or if you get sick. Otherwise, you don't want to really reveal your contact data. But that's still pending, because that's the only one which is really very recent. It was just during pandemic we applied for that one. Terminal interaction, 6 out of 8, 6 patent idea. And the 2 first one there, time stable blip and space stable blip, is actually to, with Bluetooth, create an experience which is very similar to NFC. As you know, Apple have been on iOS, they have, if you use NFC on Apple devices, you get directly to Apple Pay. So NFC hasn't really been available for that interaction. So we thought we need to create this in Bluetooth. But in order to create stability, that your blip is very stable in time, so it actually happens just like NFC, just when you are making that blip in time, and also in space. So you're not getting the blip sort of, I don't know, half a meter away from the terminal. You need to complement your blip, complement the technology used for the blip. And we come up with some really cool patterns in that area. They're sort of, they're quite related. These we have 2 in time stable blip and 2 in space stable blip, but it's sort of to create an NFC-like blip, but we do it in Bluetooth instead. We've actually engaged a company, not Björn Andersson here from Ström Gulliksson, but another company to look at ways to possibly commercialize some of our ideas outside our own sort of commercialization. And the time stable blip and space stable blip is a potential candidate for other companies to maybe make use of. We have 2 terminal with beacon. These were ideas that was even before we came into Blipit, and we have actually only applied for them in Sweden. We haven't gone further with them. We got the patents, but we think it has limited value for us. But we haven't killed the application area, as we actually have been applied, got a patent for it. 2 pending, an idea of Paul and our developer here, Christian, who have a way to visually understand when you are, which terminal are you supposed to interact with. If you have many terminals next to each other, we have some visual indication on the terminal and on your mobile phone that you could understand that it is this interaction. That's a pending one. And we also have an idea, we're calling it online by proxy, that if you are offline, you don't have access, you could maybe get online via the, say, the other side who are online already. So you are getting your online connectivity. So you can use online payment, yes, as it is today, but you're getting your access on the fly by the other party. That's still also pending. Moving into 2020 and going forward, this is all in the area of digital cash. The first one was in January, and that one has actually, we've gone from in a process of, we applied it in Sweden first, but only provisionally. And I'll talk about that on the next slide, I think. But we then applied for an international patent for it as well, or we applied for an international. We did a PCT, Patent Convention Treaty Application, and that one we got that back now, which is a clean recommendation that this is actually patentable. So that is one. That this is our first one. But we also have another two, which is interesting for us. And then 6 for digital cash offline is still pending. And we have 2 now also for digital cash online pending as well. So this makes up this whole portfolio of 30 innovations, 19 grants. And I'll go in a little bit more into detail, but this one shows a little bit the timeline for them. Before going into detail on the various sort of patents, let me just, share some light on what is it about? What is the patent process? Well, there is always an initial filing. This is where you apply the first time. And the date you get there for when you file, you're creating for yourself potentially a priority that you have exclusive rights that last for 20 years. That filing could either be a provisional or a full application. A full application is the one where we will pay all of the fees, and it is the final application that we will submit. But you could also throw in, I should say, an application which is a bit incomplete. And the reason for that could be that you want to get as early date as possible, but you haven't worked out all the details yet, but you want to get the protection. So you file, you don't pay any fees, so they won't actually examine your application yet. You will come back with adding to this first application that you do. So you have a provisional, you can have another provisional on the same idea and another one, and then you file a full one. The cost for this is about, I would estimate about $10,000 to do this. That's per application. $10,000 is what you will need to spend. Next is that you could choose to go international with your application. Because what happens is, if you don't do that, you have a drop deadline that you need to apply for in every single country where you want to have protection. You have to apply within 12 months. You can use the priority dates of your initial filing, but there is another way, and that's going international. You do what is called a PCT application, and that buys you an additional 18 months. So you can wait another 18 months before you nationalize your application, because patents is per country. Each country is sort of, they issue patents in their own country. Every country looks for the whole world in terms of patentability. When we applied, what we typically do in Sweden first, if we get the Swedish patent, it is valid for Sweden, but they have looked in patent databases worldwide. So essentially, they should do the same sort of examination that they would do if we apply in the US, for instance, essentially. But this would buy you another 18 months. It doesn't give you any patent rights, but it gives you a report on patentability. That's what the PCT application gives you. And it costs you about $5,000 to get into this process here. And it is in 2 phases. Phase 1 would be giving you first a preliminary report. And then if that's favorable to you, then you could stop there. Or you can go into phase 2 if you and maybe amend a bit of your claims here. from what you learned in the first phase one. That is exactly what happens with our initial digital cash applications, for instance, that we got that our initial application, which had very, very wide claims, they said, well, that's actually not new. We've seen that before. So we need to add some of our sub-claims together with our main claim. And we combining that, we created a position which was still extremely interesting for us, but that one was then patentable. And that's what we have now a clean report on.
Joachim, can I just say that we are a bit running out of time, so please
speed up. Yeah, sorry, I haven't. Yeah, that's good, Jon. After 18 months, whatever you file will be public. You could withdraw before that, but otherwise it will become public. And after 30 months, then you nationalize your and if you don't choose to go patent there, then you have no chance. It won't be ever become a patent in any country. So you need to choose within 30 months if you've gone through this PCT, and it will cost you about $3,000 per country. This is a long list here, but here I've grouped it into these 6 out of 8. I've talked about them before. We have them in Sweden, US, for instance, that time stable blip, but we still have chosen to go quite wide with this in many other countries. The digital cash online one are still pending. It's about the whole architecture and the digital cash message online. And then it is for the digital cash offline, where we have got quite an extensive list here. And these are some of the things that you've seen in some of our press releases, like the quantum proof one that we press released way back, or the fraudulent cloning protection. They're all pending, but they haven't been examined yet. They were quite sort of recent that we filed them. If we take this, looking at this from the perspective of the use cases, or where this would be useful, the terminal interaction, it's all about the use cases to get a better blip and a better interaction using Bluetooth. And it's typically in the area of P2M here, that it's that you pay to a merchant. The digital cash online, well, it is pay without core banking. It's really a key use case. And the other one is pay online using these digital cash messages. And they create the opportunity to pay anonymously here. And that's key to all this getting into privacy and having cash as an inclusive measure. Of the offline one, this is where we're really strong here. We have patents around how to pay forward, but also these digital cash messages are here as well, which is linking to how to pay to a merchant, which doesn't have to be a peer to you, or to pay to someone anonymously. We also have to pay offline, completely offline with non-mobiles. It's another use case area which we're quite excited with, which we have actually started we have a proof of concept already with that one. So thanks, Johan, for speeding me up. I could say also on this one that this will be 4 weeks from now. We will decide to go more into details into these sort of use cases here. And I think that will be in early June. That will be the next webinar. So thanks for that. That was it, Johan.
Well, thank you so much. And it's very interesting to listen to. And you get the feeling how important it is for Crunchfish and how good you are at it. So it's inspiring. And I'm actually starting this question sessions with going to Björn as an outsider. How would you say, is this a normal way of doing things, or does Crunchfish have their own way of dealing with patents?
Well, the way that the actual patenting process that Joachim described, I would say, is quite typical. That's the de facto standard to do it, or at least one of the very few. So it's very well established. What is special with Crunchfish, I would say, is more the pace and the level of inventiveness and the speed at which they or we come up with really nice new tech that we can that can support these use cases and that we can protect by patents. So it's more the nature of how they invent that is unique to Crunchfish, rather than the actual patenting process, which is the established one, I would say. Okay, great. And just we can, well, before I continue with my own questions, I have questions from the chat forum, and I'll be glad to just show that it's important. So I'll go directly to Olli Jalava. And I'm not really sure what part he's aiming at,
but you will have a go. It's in Swedish, so I try to translate. Have you stress tested? Is that a word in English?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you stress tested an entire process, and what was the result? Do you get an idea of how to answer that,
Yeah.
Paul?
Absolutely. I think it's a very interesting question, because that's one of the things that we are actually mitigating and fixing. As you all know, if you, for instance, do a Swish payment, it's typically very good, but sometimes we say that, okay, now Swish is down, so we cannot do payment. But it's actually normally the core banking that is down, one of the banks. And that is exactly what we are mitigating. So our system is actually, by design, much more stress tolerant than the existing ones. That's one of the first principles of the design. So since you have your digital cash locally in your offline wallet, it's a local risk that it will not function. So it's only one device. One device is broken, yeah, but then everybody else can pay. So I would say that, and then we have some POCs running, of course, with some bigger banks and so forth, where we actually run the whole system in sandbox environments, where we have very good results. So I would say that the answer is yes, it's very stress tolerant by design.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I hope you took that as a good answer, Ollie. Otherwise, just write again. Okay, Björn, I'm thinking of the word patent because I'm feeling it's we have one word and it will gather everything inside. So I'm just curious, do you have different kind of words for different types of patent? Some of them are very big and very crucial and important, and then you have more detailed patents, but they're all called patents. Do you get what I'm aiming at?
They're all called patents because a patent protects innovation and technology for a limited period of time, more specifically 20 years, and it doesn't really matter if it's a hugely important invention or a more specific one. It's the same patent system.
But could you derive the patents in different areas? What kind of patents they are? Do they have other words for it?
Not really, I would say. It's more a matter of how you would systemize it yourself as a patent holder, like Joachim has done here with his categorizations. But the actual patent system is the same for everyone, I would say.
So if I take that, if Paul and Joachim, if you have to choose, well, say 3 patents that are more important than the others, which are those? Could I ask that?
Yeah, there are definitely different levels of importance, I think, from our portfolio. I think everything we've done in the area of digital cash messages, they are very unique to us and very important to us, and we're quite a few there, whether you exchange offline or if you do it online we have a few ideas around on that. I think that idea is very novel, and that creates a commercial applicability, which makes these extremely important. I think the one where we have interaction with a non-mobile device as well, again, digital cash offline, that becomes also a very, very important one, which this is one we have done a pilot with. The fact that we have a patent protection for is that we can interact offline is certainly important. I don't know, Paul, I've chose 2. Do you want to take the third one?
Yeah, it's too easy, man. I mean, if I would look at it, all those things that you mentioned is really, really good, of course, and that's why we have patented them. But I would like to come up with a joker here. It's always good to come up with a joker also. And that's actually the quantum one, because now you might think that it sounds like science fiction, but it's real. And what is happening now, actually, on all the CBDC tracks and so forth, and also the US, the state, that they are actually mandating and looking into the quantum attack, because they see now that it is going to be real, maybe within 1 or 2 years. So they are that's actually a border condition, a requirement that is coming in all those systems, the CBDC systems. You have to show that you can become quantum computer resilient. And again, by our design, we have actually opened up the door for that possibility to really say that we can cover the quantum resilient requirement, and that is, I think, it will be a huge asset if you look further down the line here.
Well, thank you. Well done to get those answers. I'm thinking about when you talk about patents. For me, there's questions coming up about open source, because sometimes you hear about, oh, we need more open source, more people can join in and help with innovation, and now you're getting your ideas into patents and make them secure in that way. So what are your thoughts about open source? Could that be a part? Is that a part of how you work in Crunchfish?
In some sense, patents are, has a flavor of open source, because what you do is that by showing what you've done in detail, because then you're exposing everything you've done to the world. After 18 months, as I said, your application becomes public, and it is there for everybody to see what you've done. But in turn, for that, you show the world that you get 20 years of protection. But I think you could still, I think, throw in your ideas, and thanks to the patent system, you could throw in and say, well, you could use these ideas for developing open source wise, but you claim that you still have some rights here, that you could exploit that. We're going to go with our technology in India for this augmenting payments accelerator. We're going to expose our ideas for other fintech companies to work there. Open source type of thing. It's not complete open source, but so I think the patents rights, or the patent structure allows you to work still innovative and have some protection, but still allow yourself to go open source. I don't know, Björn, that was sort of my
what's your perspective on this?
I fully agree, Joachim, and I think that's the modern approach, or modern take of the patent system. It's to bring the good stuff to the world and make it available, but for a fair compensation. So it's a kind of an open source thought about how you use the patent system, and it's a lot of collaboration and stuff, rather than keeping your property for yourself. So I agree.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm just curious about how you create the process from not how you make the patent, but how you come up with ideas. And I know a couple of people now from Crunchfish, there are plenty of creative people around, and I believe Joachim and Paul you are the top of the class there. So I'm curious about how the process from idea to filling of a patent application early on. How do you come up with the ideas for patents? Paul?
Yeah, the beautiful thing is that there is no script. It's a very, let's say, it's almost like an art form. So it's an expression of thought. So it's not something that you really can learn, I would say. It's something that you have with you from an early age, and then you have to be lucky enough to be together with other people. So you basically open up, let's say, a place where you can have the liberty to have your free thoughts, and it is okay to have that.
But if I put it like this, are the ideas, patents, born from challenges you encounter in product development, or is it the other ideas, patents that control the path?
It's a hybrid basically. So you see a need in the market, definitely, and we talked about that also previous. So there is just by the fact that you are out on the market and discussing with different players, you see some challenges, of course. That's very important. But then it's also about combining different things. It's almost like a Renaissance thing. You combine different verticals basically to find new things, and that's something I guess you you have with you. I mean, surely, Vester, when you come up with new movies or ideas for jokes or whatever, it's a little bit the same thing. You're out there, so you have to have your sensors open. You have different sensors.
But is it how much of collaboration between you and within teams, or how much is it one person's will?
No, I would say it's a lot of collaboration, but typically it starts from input from the market in one way or another. But you look at the market, and then you get some seed. But then we have this dance internally, I would say. Different people are dancing in the dance floor together.
Yeah.
I mean, to have a whiteboard is, a foundation also. We have a lot of whiteboards in our office here, so it's basically covered with whiteboards, and they are used a lot.
But just you have an idea and you talk about it. Where in the process? Well, actually, I believe this is a patent. Where does that happen?
Yeah,
early on, or
very early on, I would say. We have like, and also you work up a feeling for that. So, but when you notice, okay, this is a different take on it, and that is typically because we are actually beginners in the fields, just like Joachim is saying. We come into a field with the eyes of a child, so we don't have a lot of biases or overtrained perspectives. So, and that makes it, hopefully we see it maybe differently, and thanks for that. We due to that, maybe we can find a new way to solve things. So that's quite a good thing. Jump into something that you have not done before, and when you do that, you will find new things, I am sure.
Joachim, we are focusing on digital cash here, but would you say the process is the same in gesture interaction?
No, there is. I think we have we developed, I think, a nose for that. That there is something here. This looks unique. Then I typically call Björn, because when I came into the company, I was chairman for 8 years. But I was from the start responsible for the patent portfolio of Crunchfish. So I've been really involved with this. So I have Björn and I have had at least 66 calls. When I call Björn and say, well, we have an idea here, what do you think? And Björn gives his perspective that, there is probably something here, or maybe you need to, I think I've heard something around that. That's how it starts. But as Paul said, it's quite early in the process that we say, well, should we try to make protect this area? Because you need to be first. It is the winner takes it all. If you're not first, someone else who is just a month before you with the same idea will have the rights. You won't have it. So you need to be very proactive and very early. But I think we've been that throughout these years.
But Björn, then I'm quite curious. Well, being a patent attorney, and they call you. Oh, it's you again. Okay, what's now? So and you, well, in some way, well, you take the idea, you think about it. What kind of creative process is that? And actually, is it your ideas at the end? Oh, you should do that, and then. How much is your part being
thing is, this is solid teamwork, because when Joachim or Paul calls me or emails me with a new idea, and we had this first initial discussion, then we would typically meet in front of one of those big and juicy whiteboards and really have a go at the rather fuzzy idea we should make maybe in the beginning, and frame the invention and refine the ideas that lie behind it, and then we, after that, we will have a much more clear idea on what we're going to go for, and then I can go back to the office and start thinking about details, the patent stuff. But when I do that, the idea has already been framed. The general concepts are clear to us in the team, the Crunchfish people and me. So it's really a teamwork, and also then when the process between drafting a patent application, actually having completed it and filing it at the patent office, it's also teamwork. We iterate it. It's an iterative process, and it's really teamwork.
Yeah,
really
and I believe it's all about relations as well.
Yeah, sure.
Let's just well, time is running as always. I'm thinking about value, and does the value of the patents lie in what opportunities they create for the product, or do you see, well, is there value in the patents themselves? Who could answer that?
My take is that the patent has no value by itself unless it protects something that someone wants. I mean, that brings value to society or the world, if you like. And so that's the thing. You should never patent something that no one is interested in.
That's a good start, I would say.
Yeah.
So how do you think of it? Is it any value in themselves, or the opportunities they may give, Joachim?
No, I think Björn is right. I think it needs to have that, but it could be it could be that it protects sort of your it could be that, yeah, can I say that you protect that no one else can do what you do, but filing has another value as well, is that if you get a patent right, then you could be pretty sure that no one else has already done it as well. So you're getting it both from the perspective of that no one else is in this area. So you have what you do, you have the right to do yourself, but then you can also protect others from doing exactly, because we are a small company and some of the big ones, they could easily, I think, overtake us. But with the patent rights, I think we create a space for ourselves that I think they will think twice before just copying exactly our ideas. And yeah. I think in this area of digital cash, we have created ourselves a really nice patent portfolio that will be very important for, as I said, 20 years. That's a long time that we have an exclusive protection here, and that, I think that's extremely of strategic value to the company that we have that.
So just talking about the competitors and the competition. Well, how difficult is it for competitors to create solutions that will bypass your patents, would you say? Let's go to Björn.
I would say in this case it's going to be very difficult because of the magnitude of a patent portfolio. It's not just a single patent that is crucial here. It's a really big portfolio actually. So I'd say it's going to be difficult. Okay,
and you all agree, I believe.
Yeah, no, I think we have created I think, as I said, it's not just one, it's many, and many aspects to it. I think so. Some of the things that were, as I said, the digital cash messages and what they create, that space that creates for us is very, very interesting for us.
Yeah, great. I
could also fill in that there we also that's one of the reasons why we have Björn in our team, because he's so skillful at writing generalizations, but they are still precise enough to be, have a value. So the patents are written very, very skillfully. So we are really grateful for Björn having been part of this the whole journey.
Mm-hmm. So what a nice, good, warm-hearted feeling within the panel here. There's a question just arrived from Åsa in the chat forum. A patent can be challenged if it was public known before the filling, right?
That's absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah. So hope there's an answer for you, Åsa. And then final question. Oh, there's so much I would like to talk to you about. I'm thinking of Björn. What are the chances that more digital cash patents will be granted, you say?
I consider them good because Crunchfish has proven that they bring new ideas to the table, and I mean that's the track record this far proves that. So I say the chances are good.
And what does it matter if they are granted? Well, what harm does it make if they're not granted?
If they're not granted ever, like you never get your patent? Well,
how important?
Well, of course. I mean, if the piece of technology is important to Crunchfish in the future and the market, then of course you would want to have a patent at the end of the day. We are quite early in the process for some of these ideas. So it's a bit early to have an exact point of view, but at the end of the day, I think we will have a versatile portfolio.
Okay.
Of patents.
Great. So it's 9 o'clock, and I know Joachim. He's very keen. Well, he's a breakfast man, and he will be. Oh, he's so tricky. If it just every minute past 9, it will be problems if he doesn't get his coffee and his cinnamon bun or whatever it is. So go for the upcoming webinars, Joachim.
Sure. We're gonna stay very techy next time. We're gonna talk about neural nets, which actually is sort of how the gesture interaction, how we can make a computer actually see, how they make inference their decision making. It's all about these neural nets. It's gonna be quite interesting for anyone who's interested in techy stuff on gesture. That's next time. We'll do one on India. I am personally traveling to India and last week of May, and on that Friday just before, our India head, Vijay Raghunathan, will give us a good feeling for what are we up to in India and what is the India opportunity really. That's going to be, I think, an interesting one. Corporate governance, we've just had an annual meeting. It's going to be on May 18th, and just after that, we set out for a new year in the board, and we'll talk a little bit about the whole governance of Crunchfish. And then on June 3rd, as I said earlier in this presentation, we'll talk about these use cases, which, as you now know that we have some patent protection for. We'll go into them in some more detail. So that's the plan.
Yes, it's a good plan, I would say.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. So just final words. Give me your key takeaway, one each, and I will give the attorney the chance to be the man at the end to sum it up. So Paul, if you take one message from today's webinar, what would that be?
Yeah, so
a short one.
Patents are important. And I could say that, for instance, Mark Twain also knew that. He was working at the same time, the writer Mark Twain, as Tesla. And he wrote also actually that a state that doesn't have a patent office or patent laws is actually a crab that just walks sideways or backwards. So even Mark Twain, an artist, he saw the value to protect your IDs. And we are continue that. So that's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Joachim.
I think my key takeaway is that I'm lousy at timekeeping. I think.
Yeah, you cannot patent that.
Yeah, but you showed so many weeks now that's typically you. That's you. So it's unique.
Thanks, Johan.
Well, I think it was a very good presentation. A bit long, but it's very good. Okay, so that was a takeaway also. And then Björn, sum it up.
Brief takeaway. Åsa Sundqvist pointing out that patent can be challenging if you don't patent it soon enough. It's important. If you have an idea that you think you need a patent for, talk to your favorite patent attorney first before you go public about it.
Okay, so thank you all for good energy every Friday morning. It was very clarifying and quite impressive to see all this. So thanks for this. And I hope if you watched, you had a good hour. And of course, you can, whenever, if you want to gather your family or friends tonight, let's, after dinner, look at this webinar. It was magnificent. Please do. It will be here. And if they're very, very enthusiastic, you have plenty of webinars. You have it on the webpage. So next week, we will give you another one. Thank you all.